Welcome to the channel Myths and Legends. Almost every culture or religion has a notion of some underworld or place where the souls of the wicked go. These realms, often referred to as hell, serve as a refuge for those who have not earned the right to eternal residence in paradise or the bright halls of the blessed. While such places are found in the mythologies of many peoples, each describes them in its own way. The punishments vary, as do the reasons why souls are sent to these dark realms. In Greek mythology, Tartarus is both the name of a deity and the designation of a space. In the theogony of the Greek poet Hesiod, Tartarus was the third of the primordial deities, following Chaos and Gaia and preceding Eros. Over time, Tartarus came to be perceived as a vast underground abyss where beings threatening the Olympian gods were imprisoned. Eventually, Tartarus became associated with the deepest and most dreadful part of the underworld, where the souls of those who committed unimaginable atrocities during their lives were sent. Tartarus in Greek mythology is depicted as a dark, deep underground realm full of suffering and unbearable torment. While the realm of Hades, where the souls of the deceased reside, is often identified with hell, it is actually just a refuge for all the dead, regardless of their deeds in life. True torment awaited only those who were sent to Tartarus, a place even deeper. Here, the souls of the wicked were taken after being judged by the impartial judge of the dead, Rhadamanthus. He would issue the verdict, determining the measure of punishment for the wrongs committed during life. Tartarus was surrounded by 3 high walls and a river of fire known as Phlegethon, making it impregnable. This place was guarded by a fearsome creature, a many-headed hydra with 50 heads. Even escaping from Tartarus seemed impossible due to its fortifications and guards. In the deepest recesses of Tartarus languished the Titans, ancient giants who had risen against the Olympian gods. After their defeat in the great battle, the Titans were forever imprisoned in Tartarus as a symbol of eternal punishment for those who dared to challenge the gods. However, not only the Titans suffered in this dreadful place, the souls of mortal sinners faced punishments commensurate with their crimes. One of the most famous inhabitants of Tartarus is Tantalus, who committed a horrific act. He killed his son Pelops, cooked his flesh, and served this dish at a banquet of the Olympian gods. For this monstrous crime, Tantalus was doomed to eternal torment. His punishment consisted of standing in water, but whenever he tried to quench his thirst, the water vanished. Above him hung branches laden with fruit, but whenever he reached for them, the branches lifted higher. Thus hunger and thirst became his eternal companions, symbolizing the inevitable suffering for the sins committed. In Tartarus, each condemned soul faced an individual punishment, embodying the idea of justice represented by the mythological system of ancient Greece. Dayu is the hell in late Chinese mythology, representing a complex system of the afterlife where the souls of the wicked undergo a series of trials and punishments. The entire hell is divided into 10 courts, each containing 16 halls where souls face various forms of torture corresponding to their earthly transgressions. In the first court, sinners begin their journey to self-awareness. They are brought to the mirror of evil on the eastern terrace. This mirror shows them all the evil they committed during their lives, reflecting their dark deeds and crimes. This first punishment is aimed at making them realize their mistakes and feel guilt for their actions. In the second court, the souls of those involved in forbidden love affairs, as well as those who engaged in theft or provided false medical assistance, meet. These sinners live among dirt and filth, surrounded by demons who mercilessly torture them with pitchforks and force them to suffer. The third court is reserved for those who believe that the emperor did not care for his subjects, for irresponsible officials, and for wives who deceived their husbands. Here, sinners are subjected to particularly brutal punishments. They are bound with ropes around their necks, arms, and legs. Sharp objects are thrust into their sides. Their hearts and livers are crushed with pincers. Their knees are struck. Their eyes are gouged out, and their skin is flayed. These cruel tortures embody the weight of their sins and unjust actions committed during their lives. In the fourth court of Dayu, those who deceived and defrauded others in their lives are directed. This place is intended for those who evaded taxes, overcharged customers, sold counterfeit medicines, or cheated people by selling them water-soaked rice to increase its weight. Here, the souls who paid with counterfeit silver, were deceitful in deals, were envious, and lied also languished. As punishment, they were thrown into a pond filled with blood and filth, where they experienced unbearable suffering, tormented in this polluted water. The fifth court is a place of even more brutal punishments. Here the hearts of the sinners are ripped out, symbolizing the merciless retribution for their dishonest and greedy actions. The lord of this court was Yan Wang, a powerful ruler accompanied by his two loyal assistants. Easily recognized by their fearsome appearance, one had the head of an ox, and the other the head of a horse. They accompanied the sinful souls to a special terrace where they could take a last look at their homeland. But the path to this terrace was filled with torment. They had to ascend a staircase made of 63 knife-sharp steps. This path was meant for corrupt officials of all ranks whose sins could not be atoned for by ordinary punishment. They were forced to swallow molten gold, symbolizing their insatiable thirst for wealth and life. The most wicked and hardened criminals were boiled in hot oil, ground in mills, or chopped into pieces. Endless tortures awaited those who committed evil without remorse. The sixth court served as a place for those who showed disrespect to the gods and their sanctuaries, those who neglected knowledge and cultural heritage, and did not respect books and paper with writings. These were people who stole gold or precious jewels from temples or from images of deities. For such sacrilegious deeds, they faced a special punishment corresponding to their crimes, symbolizing the highest form of retribution for violating sanctities. In this court, the souls of the sinners faced particularly cruel punishment. Their hearts were ripped out and thrown to be devoured by fierce dogs. This symbolized their careless attitude toward spiritual values. The seventh court of Dayu was located in the dark depths beneath the sea to the northwest, and here were directed the souls of those who committed particularly heinous crimes. Among them were robbers, those who abandoned newborns, gamblers, and cannibals. Their names were recorded in the book of life and death, condemning them to eternal suffering in the form of insatiable hunger. A special torturous fate awaited slanderers. Their tongues were ripped out in a hall, depriving them of the ability to lie and harm others even in the afterlife. In the eighth court were those who did not show proper respect for their parents, did not care for them, or did not bury them according to tradition. For such actions, their fate was severe in the next life. Their time on earth was significantly shortened. However, if the sinners sincerely repented and amended their ways, the god of the hearth, Cao Wang, would reward them with justice by writing on their foreheads the characters fulfilled, obeyed, amended, indicating their forgiveness and new beginning. The ninth court, surrounded by an iron net, was the place of punishment for those who committed crimes against morality and nature. Here, a brutal reckoning awaited looters, poison makers, sorcerers practicing dark magic, and those who created pornographic or obscene works of art. Particularly harsh punishment was reserved for those who terminated pregnancies through magical means or potions. These sinners were forever locked in this court, enduring horrific executions for their deeds. In the 10th court, the souls of criminals face the final and most brutal punishments. Here they are beheaded, cut into small pieces, or strangled with ropes, embodying the ultimate retribution for their grave sins. However, this court is not only a place of torment, but also a kind of crossroads connecting the world of the dead with the world of the living. 6 bridges, the golden, silver, jade, stone, and 2 wooden, serve as symbolic passages through which souls can move on. Each of these bridges is intended for different souls depending on their merits and actions in life. In this court, the judge Yuanlun Wang determines the fate of the souls, deciding their future reincarnation. Based on the actions of the soul in its previous life, its next incarnation is determined. Some may be born into a prosperous family, some into the body of an animal, and some may again find themselves in suffering. Once a month, the lists of souls are sent to the first court and then directed to the spirit Fengdu Xinyu, who stands at the border between hell and the world of the living. At this boundary, souls enter the pavilion of the goddess Mengpo, where they are offered a cup with the drink of oblivion. This drink erases all memories of the past life, preparing the souls for a new cycle of reincarnation. Thus they leave behind all experiences, mistakes, and suffering, gaining purity for the next life journey. A similar concept existed in Zoroastrianism, where after death, the soul encounters the Chinvat bridge. This bridge, as thin as a hair and sharp as a blade, separates the worlds of the living and the dead. It is guarded by 2 four-eyed dogs who allow passage only to those whose deeds have been righteous. If the sins outweigh the good actions, the soul slips off the bridge into the abyss of the underworld, where demons and endless torment await. Thus, in both Chinese and Zoroastrian traditions, bridges symbolize transition, the trial of the soul, and retribution for earthly deeds. According to alternative descriptions, there exists a demon named Vizarish who rises from the depths of the underworld to take the wicked soul to the Abode of Lies. This is the Zoroastrian version of hell. The Abode of Lies is depicted as a horrific place full of repulsive filth. But this filth is special. It consists of the very people, and souls are doomed to endless suffering for their sins. In this hell, hundreds of demons exist, each embodying a specific vice or crime. Each demon in the abode of lies represents a particular sin. For example, a pahasha is a demon who brings drought and unquenchable thirst, symbolizing punishment for those who suffered from greed in life and deprived others of necessities. Zairika, another demon, represents deadly poisons, and his domain is associated with punishment for those who poisoned the lives of others or engaged in dark dealings related to magic and toxic substances. The hellish realm, also known as hell, is the Slavic version of hell, governed by dark forces. It resides in the world of Navi, the world of the dead. This is a place where dark gods and their army reign, maintaining the order of suffering for all souls who end up there. At the head of this fearsome realm is Chernobog, the most powerful and grim of the gods. He embodies absolute evil and controls the entire army of darkness, perpetuating the endless torments of those who find themselves in his domain. According to ancient Slavic legends, Chernobog sits on a throne of black metal in a gloomy castle located in the depths of hell. His throne is ominously adorned with spikes on which human heads are impaled, symbolizing his absolute power over souls. In hell, Chernobog is the undisputed king and god, the ruler of this dark realm where there is no place for mercy. His authority extends over all inhabitants of hell, and his power is limitless. The commander of his army is V, a mighty warlord with eyelids that hang down to the ground. Legends say that if V were to lift his heavy eyelids, his all-consuming gaze would incinerate everything in its path. Nothing can withstand this destructive force which embodies the wrath and ruthlessness of the commander of hell. Hell surprisingly had two levels, one was located underground and the other on the surface. However, this realm was considered the lowest of the worlds of Navi, the afterlife into which souls entered after death. In ancient times, it was believed by the Slavs that souls rarely ended up in hell after death, though such cases did occur. The souls of those who lived sinful, wicked lives could find themselves in this place of torment. Hell was envisioned as an underground realm, and there were two ways to enter, either through destructive behavior in life or by descending into a fiery well that led straight into the depths of hell. The Slavs believed that during the liturgy the soul wandered through hell, witnessing the hellish torments and sufferings of sinners who had found themselves in this world. This image of hell, ruled by Chernobog, served as a reminder to the ancient Slavs of the consequences of sinful behavior and the importance of adhering to moral laws. In the ancient Egyptian funerary texts, the afterlife realm known as Duat is described in detail, ruled by Osiris, the god of the dead. After death, the soul did not immediately enter hell or paradise. First, it had to undergo a just trial that determined its future fate. However, before standing trial, the deceased had to overcome numerous trials hidden within the mysterious expanses of Duat. Inscriptions on sarcophagi and other sacred texts contained unique maps of this world, depicting the routes that souls would take. Duat was presented as a realm resembling the earthly world but with mystical and terrifying elements. There were fiery lakes, iron walls, and numerous dangerous obstacles. Each detail was symbolic and served as a test for the soul. On their journey, the deceased had to avoid numerous traps and answer the guardians' questions correctly. These guardians often appeared as half-animal, half-human beings, guarding the gates leading into the realm of Duat. Only those who demonstrated cleverness and wisdom could successfully pass these barriers. Upon reaching the center of Duat, the soul stood before the court of Egyptian gods, led by Osiris. Here came the key moment. The scales of justice compared the weight of the deceased's heart to the feather of the goddess Ma'at, symbolizing truth and justice. If a person lived their life righteously and impeccably, their heart weighed the same or was lighter than Ma'at's feather, symbolizing a balance between truth and justice. In this case, the soul of the deceased was granted the right to proceed to the fields of Yalu, a paradise where eternal harmony and peace reigned. However, for those whose hearts outweighed the feather, who seriously violated the higher laws, such a path was closed. A terrible fate awaited sinners. Their souls were sent to be devoured by the monster Amut. Amut, known as the devourer of the dead, was a fearsome hybrid with the body of a hippopotamus, lion's paws, and a crocodile's mouth. This monster ruthlessly tore apart the souls of the sinners, shredding them to pieces and then casting them into fire, condemning them to eternal oblivion. This punishment symbolized the final destruction of the soul, the absence of any possibility for eternal life or reincarnation. The phrase fiery Gehenna refers to the place of eternal fire, where the souls of sinners continuously suffer, writhing in hellish flames. In Jewish tradition, this place is called Gehenna or Gehinnom. Historically, Gehenna was a deep, steep ravine near Jerusalem where, according to tradition, idol worship once thrived. It was here that followers of the cult of Moloch sacrificed their children by burning them. After the fall of the cult, This place became a symbol of death and exile. Here, garbage was burned, as well as the bodies of criminals and heretics who were denied the right to burial in sacred cemeteries. Gehenna turned into a symbolic place of eternal torment and fiery suffering, where the souls of sinners endured punishment for their misdeeds. Over time, this cursed place became a city dump, where fires were constantly maintained to dispose of waste and prevent the spread of disease. The unending flames and decaying remains made this place a symbol of horror and revulsion for the Israelites. They said that here the worm does not die, and the fire is not quenched, associating it with endless suffering. Christ used this image of Gehenna in his sermons as a metaphor for hell, a place where sinners would go after death for their wickedness. As time passed, the gorge of Gehenna in Christian tradition began to be perceived as a symbolic embodiment of hell. The name of this place changed in pronunciation, transforming into Gehenna, and then acquired a new meaning, fiery Gehenna. From the beginning of the 2nd century BC, this place became associated with the afterlife retribution for sins, embodying the eternal suffering destined for those who lived an ungodly life. Parallels can also be found in other mythologies, such as the Scandinavian, where there existed Helheim, the realm of the dead. In Helheim rested the souls of all the deceased, regardless of their status, whether they were common people or gods. The only exception was those who died with honor and valor in battle. Their reward was Valhalla, while the rest went to this gloomy world under the guardianship of the goddess Hel. Helheim is just one part of the vast and dark world of Niflheim, which is considered one of the oldest worlds in Scandinavian mythology. In Niflheim, icy winds and bleak cold prevail, with mists enveloping everything around, creating a sense of eternal winter and lifelessness. Here, in its darkest part, Helheim, reigns the goddess Hel. Her appearance is frightening. One half of her body is a beautiful woman, while the other half is a half-decayed corpse, symbolizing the inseparable connection between life and death. The path to Helheim lies through the river Joel, whose waters churn and overflow in a broad strip. The only way to cross this river is by passing over a bridge guarded by the giantess Modgud, whose eyes vigilantly watch over all who dare to approach the realm of the dead. Beyond Helheim, at the very gates, dwells the enormous four-eyed dog Garm, an unyielding guardian who protects the borders of the world of the dead. Those who enter Helheim are doomed to endless torment, not so much physical as spiritual. The main punishment for souls here is boredom and loneliness. Deprived of stimuli and joys, they drag out an endless existence in cold and darkness. However, for particularly sinful souls, hell may impose additional, more severe punishments, sometimes involving physical suffering. In Helheim, souls suffer not only from boredom but also from terrible cold, insatiable hunger, and incurable diseases that provide no respite. From time to time, the giant serpent Nidhogg appears to the dead, a cruel scavenger that tortures and torments the souls of sinners, adding to their suffering. His presence makes the fate of the inhabitants of Helheim even more agonizing, reminding them of the inevitability of eternal torment. Helheim is a realm from which there is no return for either humans or gods. The only one who has been there and returned is Hermod, Odin's messenger, sent to Helheim to negotiate the return of Baldur. This exception emphasizes the irreversibility of the fate of those who enter this gloomy realm. In Aztec mythology, the equivalent of hell was Mictlan, ruled by the merciless and cruel god Mictlantecutli, embodying death and darkness. Regardless of status and position in life, all sinful souls had to pass through 9 circles of Mictlan to achieve purification and gain a chance for rebirth. Unlike certain chosen ones, such as warriors who fell in battle, women who died in childbirth, or those who drowned, who were immediately sent to places of eternal rest, the remaining souls were forced to undergo a long and dangerous journey. Souls in Mictlan did not immediately find peace. They had to face cold, darkness, and dangers until they reached the realm of Mictlantecutli. Only by passing all the trials could they attain enlightenment and eternal peace. However, this was a long and torturous process, reflecting the Aztecs' belief that rebirth was possible only through suffering and purification. To reach the realm of the dead, the soul had to overcome incredible difficulties and dangers. Its journey began by passing between enormous mountains that threatened to collapse and crush it. Next was a confrontation with a giant crocodile and a monstrous serpent which could attack an unwary soul. After overcoming these threats, the deceased embarked on a long journey through 8 deserts and had to climb 8 mountain peaks. Each stage required immense resilience. The next trial was a fierce icy wind carrying sharp, knife-like obsidian blades and massive boulders capable of crushing the traveler. Those who managed to overcome these horrors finally reached the underground river. Here the deceased had to sit on the back of a small dog, whose ruby eyes illuminated the path in the darkness. The dog ferried the soul across the wide waters, helping it to cross this final barrier on the way to the realm of the dead. Only after passing through all these trials did the soul stand before Miklin Tekli, the Lord of Miklin. The deceased offered him gifts that had been placed in their grave by relatives and loved ones. These gifts symbolized the respect and devotion necessary to gain a place in one of the 9 underworlds where the soul could find eternal peace. And so our story comes to an end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new fascinating stories. You've been watching Myths and Legends. Until next time.